Our next speaker is the State Director for Illinois for Smart TD. We've worked pretty close together lately, the past year, for SB 24. So I cannot say enough good things about the job he does in the state. It's pretty amazing when we go in that Capitol, what kind of respect he commands, and everybody knows him. Just going to see him in an office with a politician that's something to see. So our next speaker, Bob Guy.
Thank you, Jordan. That was very nice and unexpected. Thank you, Wes, Jeff, for putting this together in such a quick time frame. You're to be commended. Very good job, and thank you, everyone, for taking the time out on a Sunday to come out here. You can tell that you guys really take this serious and know how important a topic this truly is. Jordan mentioned our efforts in Springfield this year on Senate Bill 24, and it could have been done by just myself or the BLET, ourselves, the state chairman. It took you guys and our teams working together and meeting with legislators before session, after session, or whenever they would talk to you. And in that vein, I want to recognize someone. The one pager is at the table, but I want to recognize, he was mentioned earlier, Mike Rankin. Mike, please stand up. Many of you probably know Mike and taking the time out in December to come here today. Thank you, Mike, because you're busy, pleasing children and getting them all excited for the upcoming holiday. But Mike not only years ago went to Washington, D.C. When the original notice of proposed rulemaking was put out. I believe it was 2014. Mike went out and assisted our D.C. office and testified in front of the FRA on why it was so important. He told his story and why it was so important. I've called that the epitome of why there should never be less than 2 people on a freight train. And Mike stepped up again this year. It was about a year ago, in late 2018, when I called him up. I said, we've got a meeting with the Senate President. I want you to come up and I want you to tell your story. And he was happy to do it. He told the Senate President then, because we wanted to let the Senate President know this is what our intention was, and we wanted to get his support. Mike told his story to Senate President John Culleton, and his exact words, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mike, is, well, that kind of story is what passes legislation, and it ultimately did. But Mike was there, as was Jared and Jordan and our partners with the BLET in Springfield on Senate Bill 24, and it was tough. Even though, what you would call, we've got labor-friendly houses, the House and Senate in Illinois, with good, strong Democratic leadership and Democratic supporters for labor. But it was still tough. The railroads, like Greg said, they'll do just about anything to stop our efforts. I can tell you one time we were in the Senate Executive Committee, and one of the Class 1 railroad's main lawyers came in to testify. And this is how connected they are now, what a change in the administration means. She testified that day and this was in early to mid-March, and she testified to the fact, well, the state of Illinois doesn't have to do this because the FRA is going to, and she said is going to issue what's called implied preemption, and they're going to nullify any state laws out there. So you don't need to pass this because the FRA is going to address this. Well, that was news to me, but they could have only known that had the railroads and the FRA been in lockstep. What a complete turnabout that is from 2014 when the initial rule was put out by my predecessor, by a union person, Joe Zabel. What a 180 the FRA has done. Our president testified earlier this year in Washington, D.C. It was shameful what they've done. It seems that the railroads are basically writing things for the FRA. They are complicit in what the railroads want to do right now. Every action that seems to come down the pike these days has their influence. And Greg actually mentioned earlier, there seems to be no federal rail oversight at this time. We lost the member last night in West Virginia. The NTSB has chosen once again not to launch an investigation into that. It's shameful right now. So we have to be our own brother's keepers. We work as a team out there. I know I spent 14 years on the ground. I know that other guy across the cab or the other woman across the cab can make you mad sometimes. But you both have to go home at night. You both have families to feed, and you both all deserve dignified retirement. This is the fight. This is priority number one. You know, if we get out there and we talk to our neighbors, as Greg said, we talk to, if you know someone on the city council, you know, if you've got a connection with the mayor or the mayor's office, these are the conversations that need to be had, because our communities need to know what the railroads have planned, and they certainly have plans for possibly not only reducing one crew member, but they very well have plans on running autonomous trains. You know, they try to talk about what's going on in Australia with oh, we've got trains over there that there's nobody on them, they're run on autonomous. Well, those are wastelands. And they're not running through Chicago or Galesburg or Keokuk or anything like that, next to schools and hospitals and housing units and anything. You know, they can't, as Greg mentioned before, the collisions at grade crossings and pedestrian strikes, those are on an uptick. And, you know, a sole crew member, you know, left to their own, you know, with all they have to concentrate on already, it's impossible to see everything that's going on out there. So this is the fight. Now's the time to be active. You know, if we can't reach out and pick up the phone now, you know, on this stuff, then we never will, and we have to. We have to have tough conversations on the property, you know, about being on the same page with everyone. And it doesn't matter, you know, who's supportive of our issue. D, R, independents, if they support us on this, we'll support them. It's as simple as that. So thanks again for coming today. I'm happy to be here. And if there's anything we can ever do, please let me know. And again, thanks for everybody for coming out. And Jordan, Wes, Jeff, thank you for everything you did. And Greg, thank you for making the trip. I think it was very, very beneficial. And you guys keep up the good work. Thanks.